Good evening. This is County Judge Bob Hebert talking to you again from the Emergency Operations Center in Richmond, Texas. The curfew order established on August 31st is canceled effective immediately. There is no curfew tonight at 12:01 a.m. You may feel free to move through the county, but move through the county safely. Districts operating levies, that is levy districts and those municipal utility districts which operate a levy system, are no longer subject to an evacuation order. All those orders have been canceled. Low areas along the San Bernard and Brazos River are still subject to a voluntary evacuation order. And we urge extreme caution in traveling in those areas because we have several country roads out there, especially in the San Bernard area, that have water over them. Please don't ignore the barricades. The barricades in a road signify high water ahead. Don't go around the barricade and drive into high water. Turn around, don't drown. But you can move safely through most of that area, so we have converted from mandatory to voluntary. That's for the low areas around the San Bernard and the Brazos River. We have a mandatory evacuation in place for land adjacent to and behind the Barker Reservoir. We still have water in homes in that area, as the reservoir is only coming down at about a ½ inch each day. About every 24 hours it drops, a ½ a foot each day. I get that correct, I'll have calls from the Corps. It's going down about a ½ a foot, about 6 inches per 24-hour day. So it takes about 2 days to drop a foot. Currently, we have a mandatory evacuation for everything at or below the 99-foot elevation contour. And that information is on our interactive map at fbcoem.org. Put your address in there. You're probably fully aware of what you're in now, but if in doubt, put your address into the map, hit search or hit enter, and it will immediately show you your property, and you can determine by the shading whether you're in a mandatory, a very small voluntary, or no order at all. Anything not in a voluntary or mandatory order in that area is not under any order at all, and people are free to travel in those areas without restriction. I urge you, though, in that area to realize that's a little bit different than the river flood. The river flood carries very little bacteria, but the water running into the Barker Reservoir, much of it is coming out of homes in developed areas behind the reservoir. So we have much higher level bacteria counts, and there is a possibility that some of that is pathogenic. So if you stay out of contact with this water, that's one of the reasons we're not lowering it when you could actually walk in the yards, because there's still water in the street. We don't want you to come in contact with the water in any way. If you do, as soon as possible, rinse off, or better still, wash with soap and water the entire area that came in contact. We don't want anybody to be sick. We certainly don't want anybody to drown, but we also don't want anybody to become ill because they were exposed to the disease-carrying organisms. But they're present in higher numbers. They don't pose much of a risk. Once it dries, they'll be gone very quickly when the sun comes out. But they're there now. They're in the water. Take heed and avoid them. Also, we have a situation with manhole covers in that same area that have been blown off the manholes. They're underwater. There's not a lot of current to give you eddies and whirlpools that would show you that water is going down into that manhole. It's pretty still water right now because the whole system is full. So there's no warning. You walk through shallow water, filthy, muddy water, you step into a manhole, the cover's gone, you have a serious problem. You're going to be injured. You may very well drown. So don't go into this water unless you know the ground completely. Please avoid this water in those areas that are under mandatory evacuation orders behind the Barker Reservoir. We want you to stay safe. We're almost through this. We're almost into the recovery phase. Hopefully in another 2 days, everything will be free of orders. But until that time, if you have high water, avoid it. Always make your decisions in the interest of personal safety. That's our concern. We can always replace the property, but we can never replace a life. God bless you and good evening.